Hey, welcome back. This is Uncharted. We are at episode 9, and this is the Pigeon Trap. We're going to talk trading psychology, emotional traps in trading, and relationships, because they're actually kind of the same when you apply them. And I've noticed lots of patterns. So that's why I like to talk about trading and relationships. This is the podcast. We're digging deep and we're making you question the way you see the world, from money, trading, and to success, to the messiness of being human. I'm Lisa Ann Edwards, trader, writer, and someone who's lived in both the highs of the market and the lows of heartbreak. And let me tell you, the two are a lot more alike than what people think. With the Pigeon Trap, I'm going to look at both of these together, because the same impulses psychologically that have you panic buying Bitcoin at the top are the same ones that have you texting your ex at 1 a.m. So let's get into it.
I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. I'm looking for a woman in finance, crypto, 5-4 amber eyes. Uncharted, let's go.
Welcome to Uncharted, the podcast that rips the map right out of your hands and forces you to think differently about money, crypto psychology, and success. As I said, I'm Lisa Ann Edwards, a crypto trader, investor, and entrepreneur with over 25 years in traditional markets. With 5 multi-million-dollar businesses under my belt, I've navigated bull runs, crashes, scams, pumps, and dumps, and I'm here to give you the brutal truth about wealth building in a world that never stops changing. But that's not all. Before crypto, I lived in a world where money isn't real. Hollywood. Well, the Australian version. And as a former talent agent and now writer and film producer, I've seen firsthand how power, influence, and manipulation shape the way we think about success. The game is rigged, but only if you play by their rules. In this show, we deep dive into psychology, into how money works. We expose the system and how that really works, and give you the tools to build your wealth. Because life isn't just about numbers. We take a few detours into travel, luxury, and hacking the system to live on your terms. If you're ready to break free from financial lies, trading myths, and mindset traps, the ones keeping you broke, you're in the right place. This is Uncharted. Let's get started.
Uncharted, let's go.
Let me get started today with something that might sting a little. I heard this from psychologist and author Brian Knox. The quality of your life and your happiness is defined by what you do, not by what you intend to do or you should have done. Let me say that again. The quality of your life and your happiness is defined by what you do, not by what you intend to do or you should have done. Intentions are easy. Action is where the real work begins. So you can plan the perfect relationship, dream up the ideal strategy, tell yourself next time I'll do it differently, but none of that matters unless you actually show up and do the thing. And that's what Uncharted is about. It's about breaking out of that limbo between what you say you want to do and what you actually do. It's about facing the uncomfortable truths, the patterns you didn't even know you had, and the emotional reflexes that sabotage you in love, in trading, and everywhere in between. Because your life isn't shaped by what's in your head. It's shaped by the patterns and triggers and your responses when the pressure's on. The same as trading charts, the world is full of patterns. And today we're diving into something powerful: how emotional trading shows up in your relationships, why we react the way we do, and how to stop letting your wounds do the choosing. If you've ever chased someone the way you've chased a giant green candle, or held on to a toxic situation the way you've held on to a bad trade, this one's for you. So let's get into it. There's a psychological experiment from the 1950s called the Pigeon Trap. And basically, it's how variable rewards keep you addicted. So this is kind of how toxic relationships and drug addiction and a lot of stuff kind of happens. So it's really fascinating. In the 1950s, behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner made a chilling discovery using pigeons. He placed them in a box with a lever that would sometimes release food. The pigeons quickly learned to peck obsessively, not when the reward came every time, but when it came randomly. The uncertainty was the hook. Sound familiar? So if you've ever found yourself refreshing the trading app, entering just one more position, or riding the high of a green candle only to get crushed by a red one moments later, you're already met Skinner's pigeon. And whether we like it or not, trading, especially crypto, is a textbook example of the variable reward system in action. So what is the variable reward system? It's a simple theory, but devastating in practice. Instead of receiving a reward every time you perform an action, you get it sometimes on an unpredictable schedule. This unpredictability actually increases the intensity and frequency of the behavior. It's the same principle behind slot machines, social media likes, and addictive mobile games. And yes, it's why some traders become market junkies. In Skinner's experiment, the pigeons who received food on a fixed schedule would peck the lever and then chill. But the ones on a variable schedule, they went nuts. They pecked compulsively even when no food came out at all. Their little brains couldn't handle the uncertainty, so they obsessed over the potential outcome. This is exactly what the market does to us. It's the dopamine hits that are the double-edged sword. At the core of this cycle is dopamine, the brain's feel-good neurotransmitter. But here's the twist. Dopamine doesn't spike when we get the reward. It spikes in anticipation of it. So that means not the win that hooks you. It's the possibility of the win. So for men with sex addiction, it's the possibility of sex. So you place the trade, you wait, the chart moves, your dopamine flares, not when you close in profit, but when you think you might. This cycle wires the brain to crave more trades, or that sex-addicted man to crave more sex. Not necessarily better trades, or not necessarily sex with somebody you love, just sex. It becomes about stimulation, not strategy. That's how good traders start gambling without even realizing they've crossed the line. So trading apps are designed to exploit this. Ever wonder why your trading platform has flashy colors, alerts, real-time ticks? You know, a ka-ching when you sell and buy, maybe, flashy neon lights, that kind of thing? That's not an accident. It's called behavioral engineering. Like Skinner's pigeons, you're being conditioned. Every beep, every chart spike, every order field notification is a stimulus designed to reinforce behavior. The system doesn't care whether you win or lose. What it wants is engagement. And that's dangerous because it means you're not just trading the market, you're trapped in a feedback loop. So let's look at why crypto traders are especially vulnerable. So crypto is open 24/7. No market close, no mandated breaks, no chance to reset. It also comes with high volatility and a meme culture. So one tweet from Elon and your coin pumps 400%. Your alt bag might be worthless for weeks until it randomly moons. That randomness, that maybe this time it's the essence of the variable reward system. And it doesn't just condition you to trade more, it conditions you to feel less when you lose and chase harder when you win. You stop using logic, you start playing a game of hope and habits. But how to break the cycle, especially before it breaks you? If this is starting to hit uncomfortably close to home, you're not alone. So I've been there when I started trading, especially since BitMEX was one of the early exchanges. If you have a look at BitMEX, it's flashy as hell. So most traders have been here. The solution isn't to stop trading, it's to start trading consciously. That's why we built the Lisa bot at Getting Started in Crypto, because it takes that all out. It allows you to focus on the trade, the setup, and not everything else. Here's how you do it. If you don't have the Lisa bot and you want to do this by yourself, what you can do is create a rule-based system, predefined entries, exits, and risk management. They remove the guesswork to reduce dopamine spikes. Structure breaks the addiction loop. So you track your trades and your emotions, keep a journal. And this is exactly why I created the Be Like Lisa trading journal. Check my links, you can get it there. Make sure you are honest. Note what you did, how you felt. Emotional awareness is the antidote to impulsive trading. Trade less and win more. Apply the 80-20 rule. So most of your profits will come from a few well-timed setups. So don't be the pigeon pecking every 5 seconds. Longer term trades. Spot trades are perfect for this, especially swing trades. Know what you're trading, how you're trading. And as I said at the start, automate where possible. Let tech execute so you're not glued to the screen watching candles like a hawk. Algorithms don't get emotional. This is why the Lisa bot and the TTM bot helps new traders from overtrading, obsessing, although many still do. We see them in the chat. Step away, build a no trade window into your day and week. Time off resets your nervous system and it breaks that reward loop. Head down to the beach, head out for lunch, call a friend, go for a walk, do something, get active. That's stepping away, because you need to have that oxytocin level and not the dopamine. Set non-monetary goals as well. Aim to follow your system, not just hit dollar targets. Measure discipline, not dopamine. By that, I mean keep the journal, note the wins. They don't have to be 50, 100%. 3% is still a win. Reprogram your brain. When we think of this, we think of traders being in a cage. In the markets, we see it like this. You win a few trades in a row, dopamine hit, confidence boost. Then you lose big, confidence crash, emotional chaos. But maybe the next one will be the win. So you keep placing trades. It's not rational, it's reactive. Just like the pigeons, your brain isn't responding to the strategy, it's responding to the hope of a reward. And that hope is what keeps you addicted. The same system hijacks your love life. So let's now flip the chart and talk relationships. So have you ever been with someone who gives you just enough to keep you there? They disappear, then they come back with affection. They ignore you, then breadcrumb you, compliment you, and show up just long enough to reset the emotional hook. That's the variable reward system in action. That hot cold. You're never sure what you're about to get. And some days they're everything. Other days they're cold and distant and cruel. And your brain, wired for pattern recognition, goes into overdrive trying to figure them out. You're not staying because they're good for you. You're staying because of the occasional hit of love, attention, and validation. It's not love, it's addiction. So dopamine doesn't care if it's trading or texting. Just like trading, the real hit of dopamine doesn't come from when they finally text you back. It comes right before that, when the brain says, maybe this time. That anticipation is what floods your system and makes you feel alive, temporarily. And this is why the worst people feel hardest to leave. This is why people get stuck in toxic relationships, even in abusive relationships, because they're the ones who've been conditioned to chase the high. You're conditioned to chase the high of uncertainty. It's intermittent reinforcement, and it's one of the most powerful behavioral locks there is. So in psychology, it's the same concept in casinos. It's why social media is addictive, and it's why some of the most toxic relationships feel the hardest to walk away from. It's not because you love them. It's because the nervous system is trapped in a cycle. Often there is overlap between trading and trauma. And what makes this even more dangerous is when your trading triggers your emotional trauma and vice versa. So you chase a losing trade because you're already dysregulated from a fight with your partner, and you hold a losing position hoping it changes, just like you hold onto a partner hoping they'll change. You feel good when things go your way, but destroyed when they don't. Yet you stay because of the hope they might. We think we're making choices, but often we're just repeating familiar emotional patterns in different contexts. How do we break the loop in charts and in love? Here's where it gets empowering, because once you understand the system, you can start rewiring it. So you recognize the pattern, you name it. This is the variable reward loop. It's not love. It's not a strategy. It's dopamine. Once you see it, it loses power. 2, withdraw from the system, whether it's stepping back from overtrading or emotionally detaching from someone who's breadcrumbed you. You need to cut the stimulus to cut the cycle. 3, create consistency in yourself. Set routines, anchor your self-worth outside of someone else's attention or a trade's outcome. Structure breaks compulsively. Make sure you have them. 4, heal the root wound. Most people trapped in variable reward loops have a deep emotional wound, abandonment, neglect, unworthiness. Acknowledge and work on these. There's so much information on the internet that you can find for free. Otherwise, you'll keep looking for reward in all the wrong places. 5, choose partners and trades that are predictable for the right reasons. Consistent effort, clear patterns, mutual respect, proven setups. These aren't boring. They're the foundation of peace and life and profitable trading. So essentially, you need to know the cage you're in. Skinner's pigeons didn't know they were being experimented on. They thought they were making choices, but they weren't. They were being conditioned. The market will train you the same way unless you train yourself first. You're not just a trader, you're a human being with a brain wired for survival, not speculation. If you don't understand the psychology behind your decisions, you'll be ruled by impulse, not intention. But the moment you see the game for what it is, and when you name the pattern, you begin to step out of the cage, and that is awareness. And that is where freedom lives. So let's move on. We've all heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out. It's what makes traders chase green candles and buy into hype projects without doing their due diligence or their research. But let's bring that into relationships, because the same fear shows up just with different wrapping. Ever found yourself staying in a relationship that makes no sense just because you're scared they'll meet someone else and suddenly treat them the way that you wanted to be treated? Or maybe you've rushed into something new, not because it felt right, because being single made you feel left out, lonely, not quite yourself. That's emotional FOMO. You're making decisions not from alignment, from fear. In trading, FOMO costs you money. In relationships, it costs you peace. Both leave you drained, wondering, why the hell did I do that? And then swearing you'll never do it again until the next, whoops, there it is. I'm going to touch again on the illusion of control. But if you want to deep dive into this, head back to episode 5. Here's a conundrum. In both trading and love, we overestimate how much control we really have. We think if I just say the right thing, do the right thing, love them hard enough, prove my worth, they'll stay, they'll change, they'll love me the way I need to be loved. That's the same delusion that traders have, thinking they can outsmart the market every time. But here's the truth. People like markets are unpredictable, and trying to control either is exhausting. I heard a really good quote that I want to share with you. The only thing certain about certainty is that it's uncertain. Let that marinate as we move on. You don't control outcomes, you control your actions. The only thing that you can control is you. The more you try to manipulate the result, whether that's chasing someone's love, trying to time the top of the chart, or more likely, you're going to just sabotage yourself. So let's stop pretending we're God, yeah? You can influence, sure, but control, that's an illusion. And illusions are dangerous. This next part is something we all have. And they show up at the exact moment you don't want them to, when things are calm, when you can finally trust, and when you're starting to feel safe, connected, and hopeful. Then bam, old wounds get touched, and suddenly you're spiraling, triggered, overthinking every word, every look, every silence. So let's talk about identifying your triggers and go even deeper to what's really underneath the core wounds. So the core wounds are deep emotional injuries you picked up in early life, normally before you're about 8 years old. From your caregivers, from abandonment, betrayal, bullying, emotional neglect, never being properly seen. They don't go away because you grow up. They just adapt. They become the lens through which we see the world, and they keep replaying until you bring them into the light. There is maybe about 20 core wounds that may trigger, although I'm going to touch on the top 5 that most people will maybe experience at some point. So whether these are in trading or in a relationship, as you keep listening to my podcast, or if you've read my best-selling book, Become a Millionaire in a Year, you will start to understand how aligned both relationships and trading are. So let's walk through the big ones and how quietly they undermine your relationships and your trading. Number 1, the abandonment wound. This wound says, people leave me, I'll always end up alone. If this is yours, you might cling to relationships out of fear. They'll never disappear. Interpret space as silence or rejection. Settle for less, just not to be alone. In trading, this can show up as never letting go of losing trades because walking away feels like you've been abandoned, you're a loser. In crypto, these are usually our hodlers. Chasing bad trades instead of missing out feels unbearable. Number 2 is the rejection wound. So this wound says, I'm not wanted, I'm not lovable as I am. So if this hits, you probably overachieved to earn love, struggled to ask for your needs. Avoid vulnerability because the sting of rejection feels unbearable. In trading, you avoid making decisions at all, frozen in the fear of getting it wrong. Over-research to prove your worth, but never act on anything for the fear of being wrong. 3 is a betrayal wound. This one says, I can't trust anyone. People will hurt me if I let them close. So you may sabotage relationships that start to feel good. Need to control to feel safe. struggle to fully relax into intimacy. And in trading, you might second guess every signal. Flip strategies, constantly unable to commit, always waiting to be betrayed by the market. 4, humiliation or shame wound. This says I'm bad, wrong, dirty, I'm a burden, my needs are shameful. If this is yours, you might hide parts of yourself to be accepted. A lot of people wear a mask. Apologize for everything. We know that person that always says sorry. Avoid expressing needs or desires in case you'll be laughed at or dismissed. And in trading, you'll punish yourself for your losses. Feel like a fraud even when you're doing well. And stay small because being visible feels really unsafe. And the 5th one is the injustice or neglect wound. So this wound says, life isn't fair. My emotions don't matter. Here, you might struggle with the emotional expression. Feel like no one ever shows up for you. Push people away so they can't hurt you first. And in the markets, you might treat trading like war. A battlefield no one wins at all costs. Feel personally victimized by the losses. Resist learning from mistakes because you feel the system is just rigged and you talk yourself out of that. So now here's the big truth. Most of us are walking around with all of these wounds to some degree. And every time one gets poked at, we react. Not from our wise present-day selves, but from that younger version of us who just wanted to be loved, held, seen, and be safe. So if your partner's silence makes you spiral, it might not be about them. If the market pulls back and you panic sell, it's probably not about the chart. It's about the wound underneath. So again, let me ask you, what emotions constantly throw you off course? What patterns keep showing up in your relationships or your trades? Where are you reacting from old wounds instead of present wisdom? So write it down and sit with it. Not to shame yourself, but to free yourself. Because once you can name it, you can notice it. And once you notice it, you can pause, you respond, and you start to heal. That's the moment you stop being emotionally hijacked. That's when emotional trading in love or markets loses its grip. And that's when you become the kind of person who doesn't just survive volatility. You learn to navigate it with wisdom, grace, and emotional clarity. One of the hardest things to master can be navigating the emotional roller coasters. So let's talk about the ride, the ups, the downs, and what the actual fuck happened moments. Relationships are emotional. Of course they are. They touch your heart, your ego, and your sense of self. But being emotional doesn't mean being reactive. Here's what helped me. Mindfulness, just pausing, breathing, observing your emotions without letting them drive the car. Self-awareness, knowing your patterns, knowing when you're about to spiral, knowing when your gut isn't always wisdom. Sometimes it's just trauma in disguise. Communication, not just with them, but with yourself. Ask, is this mine to carry, or am I reacting to something from my past? Is this 6-year-old me that's leading here? Also take breaks, step away, call a friend, journal it. Don't send the text. Don't check the chart. Give yourself space to respond, not react. And if you're finding that the emotional swings are ruling your world, that's okay. It just means you're human, not broken. But emotional maturity is when you feel everything and you still choose how you act. And that brings us to building healthy foundations. How do we trade with love and wisdom, not wounds? Here's the truth. In both relationships and trading, your success doesn't come from reacting fast. It comes from building solid, steady foundations that you can actually rely on when things get wobbly. So let's break that down. Boundaries, not walls, not shutdowns, just clear, steady lines that say this is what I need and this is what I won't accept. In love, it might look like, I'm happy to give you space, but I need consistent communication to feel secure. Or I won't stay in a dynamic where I feel compared to other people, even if it's subtle. In trading, I don't enter a trade unless my setup is confirmed, no matter how juicy that looks. Or if I lose more than 2% in a day, I walk away. No revenge trading. Boundaries protect you from emotional sabotage. They're not about controlling other people or markets. They're about taking care of you. Communication, the comfortable kind. Not the, what are we doing conversations, but the deeper, here's how I felt, and here's the story I was telling myself kind. In love, you don't hear from them for a day and your mind goes wild. You think they've lost interest, they've done something wrong, but instead of ghosting or lashing out, you pause and you say, hey, when you didn't reply, my brain spiraled. I started thinking maybe I wasn't important to you. That might be true, but I want to understand what happened. That kind of honesty is scary, but it builds trust, real trust, not fantasy closeness. In trading, the uncomfortable communication is with yourself. And that sounds like, I entered a trade out of fear, not strategy. I ignored my plan because I wanted to prove something. Owning that's power. That's how you evolve. Journal that and make sure you understand where you're going wrong and right in these moments so you can pick them up before they happen. And self-care, let's talk about that honestly, because if your whole identity is built around how someone else feels about you, you're not anchored, you're floating, and floating gets exhausting. In relationships, self-care is knowing your worth outside of the other person. Still eating, still sleeping, still showing up for your goals, even when it hurts. Not giving up your friends, your dreams, and your joy for the promise of the someday love. In trading, self-care is logging off when you're emotional. Not checking the charts at 3 a.m. when you know it messes with your sleep and your mind. Protecting your mental bandwidth so you're trading from clarity, not from chaos. Because emotional discipline isn't about being a robot. It's about knowing when to stop, reset, and come back grounded. And at the end of the day, solid foundations aren't built on good times. They're built on the rebuilding, the moments after the loss, the heartbreak, the bad trade, the spiral. It's what you do next that defines your future. Do you react? Do you reflect? Do you punish yourself? Do you get curious? Do you cling or center yourself again? That's how you become someone who doesn't just survive love or markets, but thrives through them. This is where trading and love actually align beautifully. So you need a strategy, you need risk management, and you need to know when to hold them and when to walk away. Back to my Kenny Rogers song. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. So in both spaces, your emotions will test you, but the goal isn't to numb out. The goal is to feel it all. And letting it sabotage your decisions? No, we don't want that. So let me leave you with this. If you treated your heart like you treat your capital, would you risk it the same way? Would you chase? Would you beg? Or would you over leverage? Or would you protect it, value it, and invest it wisely? Because that's the lesson. Whether you're trading charts or hearts, the psychology is the same. Discipline, patience, awareness, boundaries, emotional intelligence. If you want different results, you've got to trade differently and love differently too. And my final thoughts. Skinner's pigeons weren't stupid. They were just operating off instinct and stimulus. But you're not a pigeon. You're a human being with the power to pause, reflect, and choose differently. The market will bait you with randomness, but so will certain people. But if you know the system, you can rise above it. Don't get caught in the chase. Don't mistake the unpredictable for passion. And don't ever confuse a dopamine hit for something that's actually good for your soul, your portfolio. Because the truth is, the right trades and the right people don't keep you guessing. They keep you grounded. And that's it for today's episode. So if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs it. And maybe go easy on yourself if you've been emotionally trading a little too hard lately. We're all learning. And that, my friend, is the real strategy. Be kind to you. You'll hear me next time on Uncharted. And don't forget to check out all my links below and come and find me inside gettingstartedincrypto.com. And if you want to control those emotional spikes in your trading, check out lisabot.trade. Thanks for listening.
Uncharted. Let's go.